president and COO. Now, 11 years later, she's the CEO of the company. I had the fortune to interact with a couple of Belay's assistant. And then they're really proud. Surprisingly, when I talked to the company, they said that it's like I'm getting into Harvard. The acceptance rates to work at Belay is actually as competitive as going to Harvard. I'm going to ask Tricia more about that. Before that, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Wanted to find out more, about your journey, to become in Belay, and with the world that we live in right now, can you also tell us how Belay able to help, people achieving, business success in their business?
Yeah. So, let's start with the latter first, right? So, what does Belay do, and how do we help people achieve and be successful in, even the current economic environment, which is always changing? Actually, kind of what you just said, Belay started during the last recession. So our business was founded back in 2010, when the economy was in a downturn. And what makes it unique and what made it work at the time, which is kind of what we're seeing today, is that we offer fractional support. So there might be organizations who maybe during this time can't commit to a full-time employee and they need fractional support. So that's kind of where Belay has come in and really helped organizations in administrative support. So we can help with virtual assistants fractionally. That can be as low as 30 hours a month, 45 hours a month, fractionally, so that you don't have to hire that full-time employee if you don't need them. Same thing with our bookkeeping services, accounting services. All of our services are offered fractionally. So if you're in a time when you're thinking through the best way to get bang out of your buck and you don't need that full-time employee, that's kind of where we come into play and offer the fractional support that a lot of organizations need. That's actually how I started with Belay. Back in 2010, I was a fractional part-time virtual assistant. And then over the course of 12 years, really kind of just continued to add value to the organization, which allowed me to kind of step up. Like you said, I went from a part-time virtual assistant to a manager and a director and a VP and all those things. And now I'm honored to be the CEO of an organization who affords that luxury to our team members, that we have thousands of contractors across the US that are able to kind of work fractionally and part-time so they can be present with their families and also add great value to their careers.
Okay, thanks for sharing, Tricia. So, since you have a lot of experience in the virtual assistant, remote working space, what are the things that you see difference when you first started? And now, I would think, if you would agree with me, that a lot of people actually open up the idea to remote working because we kind of had to force into remote working, most of us, for the past 2 years. But now going back, to somewhat normal now, there are people willing to just stay in remote working. What are your thoughts on doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. When we started, 10, 12 years ago, the idea of working remote was questionable. We had a lot of individuals and our first few clients who really felt like they were taking a step into an innovation and they were early adopters, and it wasn't very normalized to work remotely, from being a virtual assistant or being a leader who's using a virtual assistant or using a remote bookkeeper. It was very new to a lot of people what it was that we were doing. We just knew it worked because we had been doing it ourselves. We practice what we preach. We don't have an office. We've never had an office. We continue to work 100% remote. Now, fast forward to today. Absolutely. 2020 and the pandemic has forced everybody to figure out how they can work remotely and how to do it well. So it has accelerated our visibility, and really validated our model that you can, have team members that work remote. You can be a remote leader. You can lead an organization remotely without office space and actually be very successful doing it. And I think that's where the future's headed.
Okay. Do you think there is a different skill set? Obviously, that there is, for to become, I like the term, a
Mm.
remote leader.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're not really there, depending on who I'm talking to, right? Especially during the small business show, I've had all noticed that we miss the human interaction. I want to do a
Mm.
huddle, right? Every Friday, we want to go to lunch. You can't really do that. But I also talked to a company, like yourself at Belay, when they start companies, all virtual. I've talked to Kyle Hughes from Draft.dev. They write blogs for a technical company. They have 500 employees. All of them are virtual. So two sides, right? What are some of the skills that are required to be a good remote leader?
Yeah, I mean, you totally nailed it on the head, right? So, I mean, the most important skill that we have seen is being an excellent communicator who's very intentional. So, I think when you are working remotely, it's very easy to sit in your silo and sit in your home office and kind of from an absentee mindset forget like there is a team of people working and need directive, attention, communication. You're not getting it in the cafeteria, you're not getting it passing somebody in the hallway. So the best skill set you can have to be a great remote leader is to be an excellent communicator. And that means communication clarity, communication frequency is probably more than what you'd be used to working in office, but that is the number one skill set for really being a remote leader. The second thing that really comes into play is your level of trust and your ability to delegate. So you can't see people, you have to trust that they're getting the job done because you can't pop into cubicles and offices and see what people are doing. You have to hire people that you really trust are doing a great job and figure out that what they produce and the result that they get is more important than seeing them sitting at a desk.
Okay. And that brings me to my next question, and I really like that you put that in the show notes, and it says, "Delegate or die." Asking this question as a small business entrepreneur type of standpoint, chances are, listener, if they have special skills, right? Maybe they're good at baking, they're good at, their law firm, they're a lawyer, they are the best person, in their company. Sometimes, a lot of times, to do that task. So it would be hard for some of the entrepreneur out there to delegate tasks because they're so attached to it. They
Mhm.
or maybe they're really the most skillful person in the organization to do that. So how would you advise and why do we have to delegate or we have to die?
Yeah, so I love to say that for dramatic effect because truly, it's more like the organizational death. So if you continue to hold on to all the tasks as the entrepreneur, the founder, and don't delegate, you are literally the lid on your organization. I mean, if everything is running through you and relying on your skill set and your ability, you will only grow for as much capacity as you have as a person. So, in order for you to do more and grow more and more to get done in a given day, more leads, more clients onboarding, more touch, more service, you need more bodies. And so, in order to do that, you really have to figure out how to find the right people to surround yourself with and delegate to them the right things, the administrative things, so that you can do the most important thing for your organization, which is focus on strategy, vision, culture, growth, right? Like those are the things owners, leaders, executives should be focused on. And you bring on the right team of people so that your organization doesn't die because you are stunting its growth.
Okay. So what would you say the first step will be for delegation? So, what if I'm really controlling? I'm the only
Yeah.
one who could put in the salt in my ingredient, right? So other things that other area that you would suggest that an entrepreneur to think about delegating first?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some common things. What I would recommend for most people is first you just have to know that you have got to let some things go. I know control. I'm a control freak. I had a really hard time letting things go. It took me years to let go of my email, and so it is understandably difficult for people to do it. So, the first thing I would say is go through kind of a delegation matrix exercise and truly write down the things that like somebody else should do this thing. I don't know who it is yet, but somebody else should do this thing because I honestly should be doing these other things. It's almost like if you create a list of things you should do in your role, I should be casting vision. I should be strategizing on growth. I should be on LinkedIn with you, right? If I think about the things I should be doing, then that means there's a bunch of things I should not be doing. And so coming up with that list will really help you define your first steps of letting it go. And then truly, if you find the right person, then it's easy to let it go. So the control freak in us is like, there's hesitation because you think somebody won't do it as good as you. But honestly, let's be real. There are people out there who will do things better than us or minimally as good as us if we're being candid with ourselves.
Yeah, I really love that, Trisha. Especially, I would say, I wanted to put it this way to say that um, there are got to be things that I use the word hate to do, right? So you want to list them in your list, then these are the things that you want to go first.
Mhm.
For example, I cannot do my own accounting, right? But we need
Right.
to do that, for obviously legal reasons. And then maybe I'm not good at building websites, and I will never build my own website. So I think these are the most
Mhm.
obvious ones that maybe, like
Yeah.
Trisha said, to think about that. But I think easier will even to be what are things that you're not good at that you kind of required to do. If you don't keep your books, if you don't have a functional, good looking website, you know you are losing out there. So I think those are simple way to look at. And then how do we go out and find the right assistant? So I think I think we all know that we need help out there, but then I think it's even it's in person or remotely, finding the right person seems
Yeah.
to be a challenge out there.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. First, I agree with what you're saying. Is of course, get rid of the things you don't know how to do. You're not good at it. You don't want to do it. You don't like it. Um, those things are easy, easy, easy to get rid of. And then there's the things you like. There are things you like that you should get rid of also. But anyway, so then let's say you get to the place where you recognize I have to bring somebody on to help me, whatever that may look like. Maybe it is, to your point, a bookkeeper because you need somebody to keep your books and it's not you and you're not great with that. We First, I would look at, is there somebody out there doing that thing well that I could leverage as a resource? So there's organizations out there, staffing organizations like Belay or others like us, that they are experts in finding people that do that thing. So if you're looking for somebody to help with the books or a virtual assistant, there's organizations like Belay that will do all the finding for you so you don't have to worry about it. Now, if that's not what you're interested in and you want to source this yourself and you want to bring this person onto your organization yourself, I mean, there's so many different avenues that we would recommend. There's things like, Indeed and Flex Jobs and all these different platforms that offer a great resource that so many people's eyes are on. But it's all going to start with an awesome, clear job description. I
Mm.
mean, truly, you can't find the right person if you're not clear exactly what they need to do. So, sitting down and deciding what it is you need this person to do is most important. And then, secondarily, finding the source of candidates, whether that's going to be partnering with an organization, putting something on a sourcing platform or whatever that may be. Those would be the first couple steps I would go with. And then lastly, I would say, whatever that looks like, if you're sourcing on your own, a very thorough interview process and also get a second opinion. So I would always recommend, if you were hiring somebody for you, you should have a peer, a partner, a friend, do a second interview, so that you can get a second opinion. Sometimes we don't see everything that others may see. So, two opinions is always better than one.
Yeah, I like that. You're fairly objective sometimes. Maybe
Right.
you want you to replace you, but maybe it's not. You might be really good at what you're doing, or you need maybe two people or three people just to substitute you. But if you're able to find that, think about how much time you open up. What else can you do to actually grow? And maybe there's something that you really do need to hang on to. So now you're freeing up your own time, to do what you're really, really good at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, imagine, I mean, all of us out there, if we could take 10 hours a week of our work off of our plate, whatever that is, and we could take 10 hours a week to focus on something important to the business, imagine the impact we would have just 10 hours. I mean, it sounds like it's so small, but 10 hours out of a 40-hour work week, you're talking 25% of your time being focused in the right direction and taking that opportunity and just putting 10 hours of something on somebody else could have such great positive impact on any business.
Yeah, I want to use Carr as an example again. I remember he said on the show that the first time he knows that he has help, that he can actually go on a vacation, he was
Mhm.
really scared. It was like over weekend type of vacation. So nothing happened. Company is still here 2 days, and he started to take longer and longer vacation. Like his goal,
Mhm.
he told me that he wants to go on a 4 months vacations, and first to leave all the delegation to the team, really to trust them, that they are going to be here. And so I
Mhm.
think that might be a good goal for all of us.
Mhm.
Can you really walk away and knowing that the company or your organization can run the way that it should? So I think if you're able to do
Yeah.
that, then you're doing something right.
Yeah, that is the true measure that you've done the right thing, right? Is that you and even can start smaller than that. Like, can you go a day without checking your email? Like, can you just go to a doctor's appointment and get a haircut? And like, can you pick a day during the week and just one day be out of office and all goes seemingly well? You don't check your email on your phone one time, nobody calling or texting you. Like, you just step out for the day and then you incrementally grow upon that, and to your point, get to the place where you can take a vacation and fully disconnect and be present on your trip. I love that.
Yeah, and as a salesperson, I think I like to use
Mhm.
this example too, because I would call my client, to kind of talk to them, and hopefully they will buy from us. But if I let them know that I'm going on a vacation, and I actually happened to me, last March, I had to go on,
Mhm.
for a East Coast trip, so I'm not available.
Mhm.
A lot of them actually wanted order before I go, because they
Yeah.
don't want to miss out. So I will be gone for 2 weeks, and why
Yeah.
don't we just put it? So kind of different
Yeah.
effect. I didn't plan for that,
Yeah.
but I think that was funny, and
Yeah.
wanted to share in a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that people feel, great and empowered when you give them that gift. So, like, my, assistant or my team or the people that work directly with me are grateful that I feel that I can take a vacation and I'm not worried. They feel honored. Wow, she trusts me. She knows I got it. She knows I got the job. I must be doing something right because she can completely disconnect. It's when we peek back in, right? If I'm on PTO and I keep checking my email, my assistant will say to me, "What are you doing? Do you know I have this? Do you trust that I have this?" And the truth is, we show we trust them or we show we don't trust them by how well we take time off.
Yeah, that's a good example. So I would say, even in a situation like this, when you're gone, you might be only running 60% or whatever percent that it is while you're here. But if you do it more, your team, if you have the right, delegation and process in place, are going to be better. What if when you're
Mhm.
gone, your team is up 200% of their productivity? Don't you want to be
Yeah.
way more than you actually in the office?
That's right. That's right. I mean, my goal is for every area of the business to work completely well and function without me having any part in it whatsoever. Like, that's my goal. I've done my job if my leaders and my teams can function completely without me. That I'm not needed in the business, I just add to the business.
Okay. I think this is also a questions that I have for you too. So some of us are going back to the office. Some of us remain and wanted to stay remote working. So what advice would you say to a leader who has a team that work in the office, but then they have also remote team, and sometimes depending on the industry that you're in, they might not be in the country also. So how do you manage a team that is really diverse and scatter everywhere? Really?
Yeah, and so I think the future and actually current state is very much this hybrid workforce, if you will, where it's mixed, where you have some staff that are on site, and then you have an augmented some staff that are remote. And so we're seeing a lot of this mixed opportunity where some organizations are going in office fractionally. Okay, 2 days a week you're going to come in, but the other three will let you work from home. And so you wind up with this mix of employees or this mix of team that are working half and half. And I think that that's what we will see a lot of going forward, is that organizations may mandate that certain teams or departments come into the office, others are remaining remote. So we will wind up in this place where we have both intertwined into our workspace. I think the best thing we can do to create great integration is to continue the things that we've learned about working remote. And so we will sometimes find ourselves in a situation where some of us are together on site, and then we have part of our team who are not on site and they're remote. And so we will set up meeting spaces, and we will still leverage technology and webcams like Zoom. We will continue to Zoom people in even when we're meeting in person, or we will live stream things to our team when we're in person for the team members that can't be there. So I think you have to come up with a really good communication strategy for your organization that may be very unique to your organization. That is, how do we appropriately blend who is in office and who is out of office together? And I think a lot of it will be a lot of the remote things we've learned over the last couple of years. It will be using webcams, and it will be using different communication tools. And that'll be what will keep things cohesive. And I think that would be what I would say, is to remain cohesive as an organization, you have to have a pretty good communication and meeting strategy in place for a hybrid organization.
Well, I think for the past 2 years, especially, I really like how we're going, technology wise with communication. Gone are the day that I need to travel all day to meet client. Some of them don't even want to to meet in person. But now I
Yeah.
could get to jump on to the call with, my end user, the decision maker, maybe throw in a couple of board members. Now we could jump into one quick meeting, and
Yeah.
I have all the files that I have it on my computer that I could show them. Because when you go to meet a client in person, sometimes you forgot to bring this, or the dog ate your flash drive, for example. So
Yes.
I do like, and sometimes you don't need to travel one day just to go into a half an hour meeting. So I think, I do love, the technology, how we are embracing, the webcam, we all are much better now doing, online communication than what we are when we first started, 2 years ago.
Oh, I agree, and I love it. I mean, we've been doing it for 12 years, and we love, how technology has met us where we are. I mean, who if we would have known, we all would have bought stock in Zoom in 2019. But yeah, I mean, being able to do things like this, has really just allowed for so much opportunity for cohesion and new way to work in the future.
Okay. So I do want to ask you kind of the big question, and obviously you're the expert in the space. I do wanted to learn more from you, in remote working. What are we expecting to see in 2023?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the same. I think we're seeing more and more organizations start to pull employees back on site. We're seeing
Mhm.
more and more organizations ask their team members to come in a day or two, or kind of end up in this hybrid situation we kind of were just speaking to. We're also seeing a great amount of organizations agree to remain remote. I think what's happening is the employee we're seeing a large percent of employees, I don't want to say all employees, we're seeing a large percent of employees who enjoy the flexibility of being able to work remotely. So I
Mm.
think organizations are really being put in this position where having a remote option will become a necessity, because there'll be turnover. People will leave to find a job that allows them the flexibility to work remote. So we are really going to have to be super mindful of creating opportunities for great team members to join our teams by offering a very remote option. I think it will force a lot of organizations. We're seeing a lot of pushback from the organizations that are really mandating everyone come back in 5 days a week. They're having a hard time really getting buy-in there. So I think we really are going to see organizations be forced to be more flexible.
Yeah, I think one thing that I also noticed, that if you're able to be more flexible, right, using that word for remote working, you can actually tap into a workforce that are, I don't know what the word to use is. It's kind of like maybe there's a parent who needs to be at home to take care of the kids
Yeah,
or loved ones or whatever side hustle that consume their
yeah.
regular 9 to 5 hours. But if you give them the opportunity for remote working whenever they can for a specific project, you can actually tap into a pool of skillful employees that are not available in the job market. So I think this is another great plus if you could, like Trisha said, define what the project is and know where to find those talents. So there are a lot more people that are not in the workforce, but one work if the schedule works for them.
Oh, yeah, and that was literally how our founding story back in 2010.
Oh yeah,
Actually, our first few clients back in 2010 lived in rural, smaller towns in America, and they were having a hard time finding local talent. And so we said, well, gosh, do they have to live in your community? Imagine the talent pool you could tap into if they could work anywhere. Like, it would just open the floodgates of the skill set you could get in front of and the talent you can get in front of. And that was really kind of a founding mentality to our organization, is we knew that people needed a skill set and they needed a person, and they couldn't find it locally. And that was a great opportunity for the future. And so that what you just said is literally, to us, the beauty of all of this is that you're not hindered by geography anymore.
yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense, right? There are, really a lot of people, and I know a lot of people actually, they're MBAs, they have all this degree, but now they decided to take care of their kids. But then if you give them the right resource, they used to pay them 200 or $300,000 a year, but now they're willing to work with you, even work less, if you give
Yeah,
them the flexibility that they're looking for.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So Trisha, I know we're trying to get into really personalized question, and I'm sure that listener listening to this might thought of now might be a time to think through that. If they want to reach out, what would be the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd love to find you guys on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn and also Belay on LinkedIn. Check out our website, belaysolutions.com. You can go to the link kind of right here as well, belaysolutions.com/delegate to find some resources. And that would be the best way to connect with us, either our website, LinkedIn, social channels. We're there.
Thank you, Trisha, for coming on to the show today. I really like how we're able to be more flexible. Now in person, hybrid, or remote working. I think the opportunity is looking great in 2023.
I agree.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.